After useState, useEffect is the most important React hook to understand. I think they go side by side in many cases. So let's go find out what is useEffect and how can we utilize it in our apps. So here we have a basic setup. I have two buttons. One is named as get posts and the other get users. And if I refresh the page, I have a one state, that is name, and using the set name to set the name. In the beginning, initially it is an empty array, and whenever I click this, it get posts, it will set it to posts, and if I click get users, it will set it to users, as you can see. And I am rendering it here with a span tag, so these changes whenever I click it. So let's go ahead and explore what is useEffect. First of all, let's import it and go ahead here. useEffect takes two arguments. Let's first check out what the first one is. First one is a callback function, and let's just do the most basic thing inside. Console.log useEffect was run. Let's save it. So we in the beginning we see useEffect was run. If I click something, if I click anything, it just runs every time. So the most basic thing is whenever you re-render your component, the useEffect will run. And when is the component re-render? Whenever we change our state. So component re-renders, and whenever component re-renders, our useEffect is called. So here when I'm changing the name, the app component re-renders and useEffect is called again. But if I click get users multiple times, you can see that it is not called again and again. Why? Because whenever I click get users, it is not changing our state. It is just already users. It is not updating it. So the app component is not re-rendered and useEffect is not called. So let's go and do a more common example. Use useEffect in a more common example that is often used, that is fetch in API calls. I am using this API normal. Let's go and do this, and we have several endpoints here. We have posts, we have users. Let's say we will see users. So now if I save it and refresh our page, we will see 10 users initially, and whenever I click any of this, obviously it will rerun the useEffect, and this fetch API call will be made to our API. You can see, and if I click one of the button again and again, it doesn't do anything because our state is not changing and app component is not re-rendering, and so useEffect is not called again. So here what we can do now is we can go ahead and make another state. We can say this is set data and set data, and initially we will set it to an empty array. Use state, and this will be an empty array in the beginning. And if we go here, we will just say set data to whatever we returned from our JSON. Okay, I missed a bracket here. So what it will do is it will set the data. If I console.log, let's console.log, let's not console.log here. Let's go ahead and add some JavaScript here. We will map through our data and get each data item, and for each data item we will return a simple span tag, and inside the span tag we will stringify our data item. So json.stringify data item. So we can see this on our screen rather than on our console, and save. We have a warning of here. Let's have index. It does it when you don't provide a key prop key and index. Okay, So it should now resolve it. So as you can see now that whenever we make, so we are making the API fetch call and we are now rendering everything on our screen. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and make this more dynamic. We can use the ES6 backticks here for our string. Let's copy and paste. And rather than just hard coding users, let's get the value of our name state. And if I save it, so initially it is empty. Let's not save this as an empty string initially. Give this post. So initially it brings us posts, and if I click get users, it will bring us users. If I again click get posts, it will do this. Okay, so did you see the flicker at the right now? You see this flicker? I will get back to it when, later why this is flickering. So you can see that we can make multiple API calls using useState. Just React makes it very simple for us. So this flickering is happening for a reason, and I will get into more detail later. For now, let's explore the second argument of our useState, that is useEffect, that is a dependency array. And inside of this dependency array, we can set any variable on change of which we can then call this useEffect. So here, whenever we are changing any state in our app component, this useEffect is being rerun again and again. So if I do this, pass in a dependency array the name state, what it does is, what it tells the React to do is, whenever the name state is changed, we want the useEffect to run only when the name state is changed, not if anything else happens. So if I refresh, save and refresh, so you can see if the flickering goes away, and I will get back to it later. So you can see whenever we change the name, only then this useEffect is re-rendered. Let's go ahead and do another example with our width of the screen. Let's go ahead and create a useState window width, set window width. This will be a useState hook, and initially it will be whatever the window size of our browser is. And if we go ahead and return then h1, and inside we just give it the value of our window width. We should be able to see, yeah, we can now see the width of our screen. So let's go ahead and use our useState. That if you can see that whenever we change this, the width is changing but the value doesn't change. So if we want to change the value, what we can do is we can use useEffect hook to achieve that. Let's bring our useEffect hook, and inside the first argument, that is the callback function, let's create an event listener, add event listener, and we will say it will be triggered when the screen is resized. And let's call the handler function here, handle resize, and let's now go ahead and create the handle resize function. Inside this handle resize, let's go ahead and set window width to whatever the window width is at this moment. So here now we can see that if we change, what are we doing? We are changing this. So what is happening here? When we change this event is fired. And what is this event doing? This event is setting this window width, and when this when this state is changed, this useEffect is ran again. So this event is set again. So at this moment, this event is listening to if whether or not we change this size of this window. If we change the size of this window, this will trigger this function, and this function will change the value of this state, which in turn will run this use effect again and like bring a new event listener, add another event listener to our system. So at here what we can do, what we can do here is we can also remove this event listener once we have utilized it, and this is very easy in the this is very easy in our use effect. What we do, we just use the return function, and we just remove the window dot remove event listener and just copy this. So how does this work? This works like whenever the use effect function is called, first it runs whatever is inside the return of this use effect, and then runs this. So if I go ahead and console log here, console.log inside return. So you can see that whenever we, and also it will not be like that. Let's try console.log side handle resize. So you can see that whenever we change this, first this inside handle resize is called, and then this is called. So what is happening that at first whenever we render the app component, this use effect listens, use effect is run, and this starts listening. And when we change this, first it is setting this value, and then it is removing the event listener again. So this way we can like not make our app very slower by like adding thousands and thousands of event listeners. So now let's go ahead and do another example to see what can go wrong when we are using useState with useEffect. Let's save this, refresh. Let's have, okay, a lot of errors here. Return, we'll return an input and span tag. Span tag, come on. Span tag. This should be wrapped inside our div. Oh, come on. So let's have another example. In this example, what we have is I just basically have a span tag in which currently is nothing. Let's add something so that we can see it. Let's just add an a, not like this, and we have an input. And what we want to see is what can go wrong when we use useState with useEffect. So let's have two states. One will be value, set value, and this will be use state, and initially it will be nothing, empty string, and then we will have count and set count. This will be another use state, and initially it will be 0. So inside our input we will have the value equal to value, whatever the value is, and on change we will have a function which will be handle change. And let's go create this function handle change, and we will grab the target of the event that is being fired with this handle change, and we will set the value with whatever the target value is. So if I now type something here, we should be able to see it, right? Okay. So now what we want to do is whenever this handle change is called, we also want to set the value of our count. We want to check how many times someone changed the value of this input. So what we can do it like this: set count and we can say count plus 1. What do you think will happen here? I don't know if I save and run what will maybe it will crash my browser, but let me tell you what will happen. So if I type something here, this will trigger the on change, and this will set the value to the new value whatever I type here. And when and it will also run this set count. So what will happen, this set count will change the value of this count, and when this count value is changed, we have already will not do this here. Actually, this we will do this in our useEffect. So what will happen now? So changing this value will trigger this useEffect, and this useEffect in turn will change the value of this count, and this when this count is changed, this useEffect will then be triggered again, and this will trigger the count. This will like re-render and then trigger, re-render and then trigger. This will be like stuck in a loop, in an infinite loop. That's what was happening when we were calling the API. So like whenever we were changing the from post to users, what was happening, that it was doing that very fast and was calling the useEffect multiple times. So one way around it is we can utilize the dependency array, and we can pass that whenever the value of value variable changes, we then only run this useEffect. So if I now save it and run it, let's also show the value here, not value, count, and not the square brackets but the curly ones. So count is 3, not -1. Let's because it runs at the time of render, that's why it's changed to 1. So whenever I now do this, it will tell me how many times I changed this input. So let's for the sake of understanding, let's remove this and save it. You can see that this is like going mad because this is now stuck in an infinite loop. So this is what we need to take care of whenever, let's do this, save and save. So whenever we are using set state function of any state inside a useEffect, we need to be very careful, because it can like get stuck in an infinite loop of like rendering and then calling useEffect, then rendering, then calling useEffect. So this is what we need to be very vigilant about. So I think that's pretty much a lot of things that we have covered in this video about useEffect, and I hope you have learned something. I also learned a lot whenever I was making this video. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe the video, share with your friends. It will help a lot with my channel. Thank you. Goodbye.